The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.
Thank you so much for this time and opportunity. My pleasure hosting you again. Susan, it's a pleasure hosting you here in our office.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being with us. So we have a news, GCAP bond, so it's fantastic news, and thank you so much for being involved. Well, generally, for helping us and assisting Giorgi as much as you can in developing capital market here. So could you be so kind to tell us more about the characteristics of the bonds? What are such exceptional interest coming from strategic investors? Because for Giorgi, you are definitely considered as such.
No, thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be here and talking about this very important topic. I think sustainability-linked bonds and green bonds, all kinds of different bonds, I think is very important for the development of the capital markets. As you rightly pointed out, we're very pleased to be here with the Asian Development Bank, having played a very active role in the development of Georgia's capital market through ESG theme bonds, supporting the first green, gender, sustainability-linked bonds, and within Georgia and the Caucasus. So it's a very important tool that we find for developing the markets and helping with that, increasing interest into the area, but also with a strong sponsor like Georgia Capital. They are very clearly committed to climate change. They have very clear through the bonds themselves. They have very clear sustainability-linked features. For example, reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 20% by 2027. So, this is part of the group's greater initiative of going to net zero. So, we're very excited to be part of this.
Very good. We had an opportunity talking about green bonds just a few months ago, but at the same time, as Susan mentioned about the local market issuers and investors, how they may benefit from such activities as we face right now. This question both to you, and it's up to you whom will respond, because at the same time, from such an unprecedented level of investors happening in this particular deal.
No, I'll hand over to David, but what's interesting about this is that, ADB has been involved in the issuance of bonds for quite a number of years. And initially you're starting for offshore and then to onshore as the market has been developing. So I think that this is a particularly exciting aspect of it. And as the climate objectives of the countries and companies involved, because we clearly know that there is a climate imperative out there. So when you're able to actually create new financial instruments to help create markets and interest, I think that's really, important part of the development. And maybe if I can, David, if you wanted to step in.
Sure. As Suzanne mentioned, actually, so ADB has been very active, especially in the last 4 years, helping to develop the ESG bond market, especially with green, gender, sustainability-linked bonds. And this has really helped two things. On the one hand, to strengthen the ability of issuers to tap additional options for capital, especially putting in mind sustainability in their agenda, but also for investors, creating opportunities for investors to actually invest in different instruments. This particular transaction is definitely a landmark transaction for the capital markets of Georgia. We are proud of the journey and now coming to this point. It was a $150 million bond, sustainability-linked bond, that actually has been issued. This is the largest corporate bond ever listed in the Georgian Stock Exchange. There's a number of strategic investors, including ADB. And what is very remarkable is that over 275 different investors actually participate in the transaction. And that means that out of the 150 million transaction, there were around 83 million coming directly from non-IFIs private sector investors. That means that more investors within Georgia actually had the opportunity to be part of this transaction. Just to be a bit of perspective, when it comes to a Eurobond that is listed in a European stock exchange, typically the minimum ticket size is around $200,000. So that's actually make it very unaffordable for the average Georgian. But here, when it's listed in the Georgian stock exchange, the first ticket is around $1,000. That means that more people can actually participate and diversify their investments.
If I got you correctly, what are some of the key elements that we can expect to observe in deals funded by yourself?
Well, I think that's, again, a great question, because I think that the whole idea when you're looking at these kinds of bonds is the fact that they have certain criteria that you put in them, and so it creates an accountability. It requires, that the company itself is able to monitor this and then report on that. Because again, you hear lots of discussions that because the market is developing on climate generally, you don't want to get into greenwashing and all these kinds of stuff. So it creates an accountability, and also for them to report on these things. It's a very important aspect. And also, as David was saying, when you have 55% of the investors in this coming from the commercial banks and commercial investors, I think it's treading new territory in the market itself and also with investors. So I think it's very exciting times.
Which means that Georgia is making first steps
Absolutely.
on the international capital market.
Correct.
At the same time, going back to your responding in these regards, do you have any market development initiatives in the pipeline? Yes. If we can suggest, because I remember our last meeting and interview, the BMG, you were talking about ESG, green bonds, but at the same time highlighting how actively Georgian capital market is developing. So please.
No, we're very proud to be within the region, and Georgia and the Caucasus. It's an important part of what we're doing in Asian Development Bank. I'm also here to to be part of the ahead of our annual meeting. So we know that in May of next year, our annual meeting will be taking place here. So we're very keen to work with businesses, and we hope to have quite a few more announceables at that time, announcing new investments. Obviously, part of this, we're very interested in the climate angle from renewable energy, from financial institutions, from an agribusiness point of view, and in looking all across the various value chains and sectors. We are looking very actively at trying to facilitate this and obviously showcase Georgia.
And if I can add to that, I think something that the market has really noticed in terms of ADB, we really position ourselves as a partner with our clients, a partner, of course, of the country and a partner of our own clients. And we like to really co-create opportunities. We understand that the path only has one direction, which is ahead. With the annual meeting coming up, of course, we are working on a number of sectors, but the idea is to really be co-creators of these opportunities. So actually, at the end of the day, the country itself and the society themselves can actually benefit from the development mandate that ADB has.
Well, good luck, and while suggesting and having such an important annual meeting for 2024 and announcing that a lot of things will be developed before then, good luck with all your further initiatives, and good luck to Georgia as well.
No, thank you very much. Pleasure to be here, and for us, the private sector and helping to develop that in Georgia and other economies in the region is very important, because we know it's the driver of change. It's the driver of employment. By far, the majority of the employment comes from the private sector, and we know that when you're looking at things from a climate perspective, by far the most innovation as well as finance will come from the private sector. So we're very much oriented and supportive of that.
Which means that green and ESG will be set as a top priority.
Absolutely, absolutely.
In Georgia as well.
In Georgia as well.
Georgia and beyond.
Yes, exactly. ADB wants to be has aspirations to be the climate bank, and so with that being the trusted partner to, as David said, to co-create opportunities, looking to the future, to creating those opportunities so that, in the end, it supports the economy and the people there.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.